Hey everyone, Jim here from Village Local. Thanks for joining us for this third and final part of this video series of stepping through the aged care system to access the level of support services that you need. We created this series for those who have never experienced home care services before and are finding they need a little bit of help around the home. But the other person that we created this for is for those that are getting support services or have been receiving them for a period of time, but are finding that they need a little bit more support than what they've currently been experiencing and need to go through that process of getting reassessed to get that level of support that they need. The purpose of this third and final video is once you've made your way through that waiting list, what to expect next. What letters will you receive from My Aged Care, and then how do you go about finding and choosing a provider that is well equipped to provide you with the level of support that you need and also help you design that ideal care plan so that you can live that life that you want to live and maintain that level of independence that you want so you can continue living safe and well in your home. So I'm going to head into the office. I'm going to step you through this step by step, how to find that next, or how to navigate your next way through the aged care system. Before I jump in, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, then hit that subscribe button. Also hit the notifications button. We regularly produce great content like this. So as we produce those upcoming videos, you'll be getting that notification. Okay guys, so you've been on the waiting list for a period of time now, potentially for a home care package. You've received that letter from My Aged Care back in the day after your assessment, telling you you've either been approved for that Commonwealth Home Support Program, which is that entry-level service, or potentially a home care package. And that's what we're really going to focus on in this particular video. What to do as you've made your way along that home care waiting list while you've been waiting for your home care package to be what they call assigned. Okay? Now, as you approach the end of that waiting list, a few things happen. And this is really what I want to focus on in this particular video. It's how to prepare for when your package is available. And then once you get the notification that it's available, what do you do, right? So a few things we're going to be covering off. We're going to be covering off the 90-day letter that you're going to get from My Aged Care, the 56-day letter you get from My Aged Care. We're going to talk about a concept known as consumer-directed care. We're going to talk about getting different quotes from different providers so that you can maximize value. Talking about the ways a provider makes their reimburses themselves, so that if you've got a good understanding of that, well then you can get the best value, not so much by shortchanging a provider, but by working with a provider to discuss what is of value to you and what's not of value to you, so that you can come to an agreement that is in your interests and best serves you and enables a provider to provide the best value for you as well. Talk about the types of fees that get charged for those that are taking on their home care package, so that you're aware of and you can ask the right questions. And then on the topic of questions, I want to talk about what questions to ask. Okay, we've got a great resource at the end of this video that you can access, so that you can have that question list when you do speak to the providers when your package is available. So let's jump straight into it, right? So the first thing that you want to be aware of or keep your eyes out for is this 90-day letter that My Aged Care will send you, okay? So typically, when you're about 90 days out from your home care package being available for you to start using, My Aged Care is going to send you a letter advising you that you're approximately 90 days out, okay? And what that is a prompter for you to start thinking about, or which organization should I assign my package to. Now remember, when you get a home care package, what that is, it's the government making funding available, right, for you to use that funding to put towards products and services that are designed to keep you safe and well and help you maintain your independence in your home. But the government's not going to put this funding directly into your bank account. The government's going to put it into a special, what they call a trust fund, right? You're going to be the trustee of that trust fund. So in other words, you're going to have ownership over that trust fund, but it needs to be managed by a registered home care provider, okay? And there's a heap of registered home care providers across the country. The My Aged Care website has them all listed, and I'll put the link in the description area where you'll be able to go to the My Aged Care website, click on the link, find a provider, and they'll be all listed there. You just type in your postcode and they're all listed there. But that 90-day letter that My Aged Care is sending you, that's the prompter to start thinking about, well, which provider am I going to go with? Now, if you're on a waiting list for a home care package as you're listening to this, you may already have a provider. You may already be getting entry-level support services known as the Commonwealth Home Support Program. So that typically looks like a little bit of help once a fortnight for about an hour, hour and a half. You might be paying a very nominal fee, maybe $10 or $20 for the visit. So that's a provider, and chances are that organisation does offer home care package services as well. Okay? So that's potentially one organisation you want to get a quote from for your upcoming home care package. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So that's the 90-day letter. Then the next correspondence you're going to get from My Aged Care is when your package is actually made available. In other words, it's ready to be assigned. And this word assigned is an important word. I've repeated it a few times, but whenever you see the word, my package is assigned or ready to be assigned, that means your funding is now available for you, okay? When your package is ready to be assigned, so you've made your way through the whole waiting list and it's available, you're going to get another letter from My Aged Care. And that letter is going to let you know that it is signed and you have 56 days to choose a provider, okay? 56 days. Now, 56 days, to some people that might be a lot, other people it may not be enough time. Regardless of the scenario, you should be starting to do your research when you get that first letter, that 90-day letter. And here's a little side thing as well. If you've been on the waiting list for many, many months, many more months than that sort of indicative time frame that I mentioned earlier, then what you want to do is you want to call up My Aged Care and find out where you are on the waiting list, okay? They can give you an indication of where you are on the waiting list. Sometimes we've heard scenarios where people didn't receive the 90-day letter or it got lost in the mail or they misplaced it or something along the lines, but whatever the situation, they don't have the 90-day letter with them or they don't remember seeing it, just call up My Aged Care. They can give you an indication of where you are on the waiting list as well. So you've got the 56-day letter, you've got 56 days to assign your package. Hopefully, before you got the 56-day letter, you've spoken to a couple of providers. And we want you to speak to at least two, right? If you're already getting services from Commonwealth Home Support Program services, then speak to that provider, call them up, let them know that, hey, I've got an upcoming home care package. They probably are already aware of that, by the way. I've got an upcoming home care package. I'd like to speak to somebody about the types of support services that I'd like to see in place and discuss the fees associated with that as well. Okay, so you're gonna have that conversation with your current CHSP provider. That's if you want to. If you haven't been happy with them, then find another couple of providers. But you know, you've spoken to, you've had dealings with them. You might as well speak to them about your upcoming home care package. But you also want to have something to compare with, right? So you want to ask your friends, ask your professional network, doctors, nurses that you might have had contact with, physiotherapists or other allied health professionals who they could recommend. And you want to reach out to them and have exactly the same conversation with them so that you're going to get a quote, right? It's effectively a quote of what their services look like as well, okay? So you've spoken to two, maybe three different providers, and you've got all the information out there. How do you make sure that you are having quality conversations with them? Well, you need to understand how these providers are, first of all, making money, how they pay themselves. Because if you've got a good understanding of that, as I mentioned earlier, well, then you can work with them, right, to let them know what's important to you, and therefore they can say, all right, well, we won't charge you for that, and we'll apply value in this particular way and work like that. So let me tell you about those three ways that a provider makes money. The first way that a provider makes money is through the rate in which they charge out their caregivers. Okay, so typically a provider will hire a caregiver for, say, I don't know, $30 an hour. And the going rate for caregivers coming to the home to provide domestic assistance or cooking or transportation is typically around that $55 an hour mark. Sometimes we see 56, 57, sometimes we see 54, 53, but it's typically that mid-50s, all right? That's for an average caregiver. We've seen a lot higher. We've seen it in the 60s and 70s. We've seen a lot lower in the 40s as well. But I'm talking on averages here. You're going to be charged around that $55 an hour mark. So you can see there's a profit margin there. The rate in which they charge that caregiver out and the rate they hire them, there's a profit margin there. Yes, they have to pay, a lot of providers invest heavily on training their caregivers and the insurances associated with sending caregivers out to a home. It's a high risk sort of situation, so there are insurances. So it's not all profit, but there's an element somewhere there's a profit margin. Okay, that's the first way a provider makes money. Second way a provider makes money is with the administration fees that they charge to look after your package, right? So remember how I said the government isn't going to put the money directly into your bank account. What they'll do is they'll put it into a special trust fund, and the government, or My Aged Care, is wanting the provider, as a registered home care provider, to manage that fund for you, all right? And the reason why they want the provider to manage the fund for you, it's governance. The government wants to make sure that money's not going to be misspent. You know, somebody's not going to spend it in a holiday or spend it, at a club or whatever. It needs to be spent on things to keep you safe and independent and well and all those things, right? So the provider is the one that has to oversee that on the ground, on the front line, right? So if it is misspent, well then at the end of the time, the provider can get audited and can essentially lose their My Aged Care registration or registered standing, which would be a very, very bad thing for the provider. So that's how that arrangement is working. The second way that provider is making money is the administration fees that they're going to charge to manage that fund. Okay. The third and mostly the final way, but there are some other small ways that a provider makes money, but the third major way that a provider makes money is through something they call brokerage fees. Okay, and what that means is, in order for me to explain brokerage fees, I need to take a step back and introduce this concept known as consumer-directed care. Okay. In February of 2017, the government introduced this concept of consumer-directed care. And what it means is the government is putting the power in the hands of the consumer when it comes to deciding on how their home care package funding is to be spent. Okay. So that means you've got the money in the trust fund, which you're going to get a monthly statement for. Every month, it's going to let you know how much money the government paid into this fund, how much money was spent on services, how much money you've got left over, right? You as the consumer, in this idea of consumer-directed care, you as the consumer can say, all right, well, look, these are my health needs, these are my daily living needs. I would like a portion of that money spent on this particular service. And it might be a plumber, right? I need a plumber for my home because I've got this water leak and it's causing damage to my home and it's causing a hazard in my home. I want to get a plumber in to sort that out. So you would speak to your provider, make sure that they were happy with it, because remember, they could get audited if the money was misspent. If they agree with it, they'll say, yep, no worries. Let's organise a plumber. And they'll say to you typically, do you know any plumbers that you've typically worked with, or sometimes they can recommend their own. You have, under this consumer-directed care policy, you have every right to select your own plumber. If you've got a person you've been working with for years, or a friend recommends somebody, you can select that plumber. They don't have to have anything to do with aged care, right? You can select that plumber, and you get that plumber to give you a quote, and you hand that quote in to your provider. Probably check with your provider that they're happy to work with that plumber. Okay, some providers will say, no, well, look, we don't want to work with that plumber for a number of different reasons. That's out of the scope of this particular video. But all in all, they'll most likely be happy to work with that plumber. And they will pay that plumber's fee out of your home care package funding. Okay. Say the plumber's fee was $300. Okay. What the provider might do is they might add on a brokerage fee on top of that bill. Some providers charge, I've seen some providers charge 10%, I've seen some providers charge 15%, I've seen some providers charge more than that. I've seen some providers not charge any brokerage fee at all. Okay, when you are speaking to 2 or 3 providers to understand which one's the best one to assign your package to, let's talk a little bit about the what is fair value, or typically what is the average value, so that you can get an understanding of, is this like an outlier what they're charging me, or is this sort of like what everybody else is getting charged as well? And you can make a judgment as to whether you think that's fair value for you, right? So let's talk about the first one, the management fees for a provider to look after your package. Typically, the management fees are broken down into 2 parts, okay? There's what they call the package management fee, okay? And that's the fee that they charge to hold your package, send you monthly invoices, do the administrative side of things when it comes to looking after that government funding, okay? That's what they call the package management fee. But there's also another administration fee that a lot of providers charge, and that is called the care management fee. Now, the care management fee, that's for the provider to reimburse themselves for the time and effort they put into managing your care plan, working with you on the ideal care plan, taking your call and hearing your requests and making changes on your behalf to the types of support services that you need, okay? That's the care management fee, right? What you want to do is to make it as simple as possible for yourself. Is you want to ask the provider, when it comes to getting quotes from the different providers, what you want to ask them is you want to say, hey, provider, I understand that you're charging these 2 separate fees. Can you put these fees together for me and tell me what it is as one number, okay? One number every month you're going to charge against my home care package. You're going to draw out of my home care package to pay for this fee, the package management fee and the care management fee, and tell me what that number is as a percentage of my overall home care package funding. So let me give you an example of that, okay? So say you've got a level 2 home care package, okay? A level 2 home care package, it's $15,750 per year, okay? Now, on a monthly basis, that's, I think, it's around $1,200, $1,300, somewhere around there, okay? Let's call it $1,200 a month. That's what the government is going to be putting into your trust fund every single month, that $1,200. It's a little bit more than that, but let's say it is, for round numbers' sake. Now, the provider, they're going to send you a monthly statement to let you know this month you got paid $1,200 from the government. And then on that same statement, there's going to be the package management fee that the provider is going to take out, and it's going to be the care management fee that the provider is going to take out. Typically, on average, what we are seeing from high quality, well-run organizations, we've seen that those type of really good quality organizations, they're able to deliver that service by charging anywhere between 16, 17%, 20 and 23%, really between there, right? So if you come across an organization that is saying to you, all right, if you want us to add the care management fee and add the package management fee together, we will charge you on average anywhere between 16 and 23% of that monthly funding that you're getting. So it's $1,200. We will take out our total administration fee from that. So say it's 20% they're going to charge, and your monthly funding from the government is $1,200. Well, that is $240. 20% of $1,200 is $240 that the provider will take out for themselves to help them run their organization and provide that administration and customer service that you need. Okay, so that's how the administration fee works. And the reason why I say when you're speaking to providers, get them to add the number together and tell you what it is as a percentage of your monthly funding is because then it makes it really easy for you to compare that number with other providers, okay? It's really hard to compare the dollar value numbers because One provider might say, oh, look, for the care management fee, we'll charge you $110. For the package management fee, we'll charge you $130. Together, that's $240. And then it's up to you to compare that with the next provider that says, oh, our care management fee is $140 and our package management fee is $120. Still $240, but they're charging it differently. It makes it complicated for you. Don't worry about it. Just tell them, add up all your fees. What is it as a percentage of my package? 20%? Great, thank you. Go to the next provider, ask the same question. What's yours? 21%. Overall, these guys are cheaper than these guys. Okay? You can compare, right? So I highly recommend you do that. So we've talked about care management, we've talked about package management. We talked a little bit about the hourly rate of the caregivers. Again, going rate around $55 an hour, $56 we see, $57 we see. It's marginal difference between the two. I'm telling you these averages because if you come across a provider that's charging you way out this bracket, well then I don't want you to write this provider off. There might be a very justified reason for it. But I also want you to question, is this value for me? And should I continue shopping around to see if somebody else can get within this bracket? And then if you do find somebody in this bracket, maybe go back to the one that was charging above that and just give them an opportunity to justify the difference. There might be a valid reason for it. They might have an amazing extracurricular program that you want to get involved with. And that's got to be paid for somehow, right? So there might be a justified reason for it. But I want you to be informed to make well-informed decisions that are in your interests, okay? So we've talked about the average hourly rate for caregivers coming to the home. Brokerage fees, I mentioned, we're seeing them around 10, maybe 15%. Some providers don't charge any. Some providers are charging more than that, okay? So ask the question. Again, it's not about writing any provider off. It's about asking why. Why are you charging that? Help me understand to determine if that's of value for me, okay? Here's another one that I want you to be aware of, and it's called the basic daily fee, right? So the basic daily fee, it's an additional fee that is put forward by the government, okay? And it typically adds up to about $10 per day, every single day that you have your package, regardless of whether you receive services that day or not, right? Now, this fee, the majority of providers we come across Australia don't pass this fee onto their consumers, okay? They're essentially absorbing it in another way and therefore aren't charging your home care package this fee, which means you've got more money left over at the end of the year or at the end of the month. $10 a day, 365 days a year, that's $3,650 that your package could be reduced by, which is a bad thing. You don't want that. So if you do come across a provider that is charging you the basic daily fee, then just ask them, can they waive it? Can they take it out? And make them aware that you are aware of many other organisations that are able to take it out. So your expectation is they should be able to do the same as well, okay? Moving on, the last kind of thing I want you to be aware of when it comes to choosing a provider or having these conversations with providers is exit fees or lock-in contracts, okay? There is no reason why, now look, this is a personal opinion of mine, it's based on some sort of logic in that, again, we see many high quality organisations across the country, home care providers across the country, that have a lot of, that invest a lot in their community, and they're able to provide an amazing service to their community without locking their consumers into some sort of contract where if they wanted to leave them, well, either they're going to be slugged with an exit fee, like of hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars, right? Or there's a minimum time frame in which they can leave to go to a different provider if they're not happy, right? There are many organisations that don't charge exit fees and don't put in place lock-in contracts, and they're able to run amazing services for their consumer. So those organisations that are charging exit fees and are putting in place convoluted lock-in contracts, feel free to reach out to me. If you're somebody listening and you've come across one of these organisations, feel free to talk to them and ask them, why are they doing this? Today's day and age, and in the spirit of consumer-directed care, it's just not acceptable. We don't need it. Retain your clients. Stay with a provider based on the merit of the service that you're getting. And if the service quality isn't there, the consumer, yourself, you need to be fully empowered to send that message to the provider saying, I'm sorry, I gave you every chance to rectify the situation, but I have to take my home care package to a different provider, assign it to a different provider so that they can look after my needs. Okay? So the takeaway message from that last point, if you come across a situation where you are informed of there is an exit fee, here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell that provider, look, thank you for the information you provided me. If you're having a good experience with them to that point, let them know. I'm really enjoying the conversation. I'm really respecting your organisation. But unfortunately, this exit fee that you're charging and the nature of this contract, this lock-in contract, we can't continue this conversation. I'm not willing to continue this conversation. Again, this is up to you if you want to do this. If you are willing to continue it, then by all means continue it. But simply by telling them that hey, I know my options, there are other providers that will waive that exit fee, they'll probably do the same. Okay? And if they don't, well, they don't, but it's up to you whether you want to continue the conversation or not. All right? It's certainly not the norm now to see exit fees. So that's why I'm saying if you do see an exit fee, that is not the norm, and question it. All right? The last part is we've put together a really good summary of this sort of conversation, as well as some 10 questions to ask any provider that you interview, right? So you can head over, I'll put a link in the description, but you can head over, click the link and you'll head over to the Village Local website. It's got a list of those questions you can keep by your side when you start interviewing those providers. And then once you've done that, you've spoken to 2, maybe 3 providers, you've got the ability to compare, then just choose one. Choose a provider, and just remember, under the spirit of consumer-directed care, the choice is yours. You have the choice. And there's also the other thing that you've got up your sleeve, and that is the put out by the Aged Care Quality Commission, your standards, the aged care quality standards that all providers need to abide by. Right now, I'm going to put a link to that, to the Aged Care Quality Standards here as well, so that you know what your rights are as a consumer. And if at any time it's not working out, my suggestion is let it be known to your provider. Let them know that you're not happy. Let them know that these are your grievances. Give them an opportunity to rectify the situation. And then if they can't rectify the situation, or they refuse to sort of work with you in the way that you need them to work with you, just go to another provider. It's super simple to switch providers, okay? Typically the new provider that you find would be more than happy to help you do the administrative side of things to switch you over, okay? Hopefully you found that useful. As always, shout out, email, phone, leave a message on our website or on the YouTube channel, and we're happy to assist. Take care, all the best. See ya.